And we are live. Welcome to Office Hours with Arrow, a LinkedIn Live event hosted by Arrow leaders who care about what senior living looks like. I'm your host and producer, Aaron Neeson. Today, I'm joined by the indisputable Matt Meyers and Amber Moore. Thank you so much for joining me, you two. Why don't you introduce yourselves and what you do at the company? Matt, you're up first.
Matt Meyers, Senior Managing Director of Analytics. So I get to play around with all of our data, get out of our systems, move it into our warehouse, and do all of our reporting, automation, and work on Archer.
Excellent. Thank you for being here. Amber, you next.
Hi, I'm Amber Moore. I am our Managing Director of Human Resources. So I spend a lot of time working with our recruiting team, our payroll team, some other HR stuff, a lot of scheduling, and like Matt said, the Archer.
Excellent. But we're not here to talk about any of that stuff. Sort of the Archer. But we're not here to talk about that stuff. We are talking about hackathons today. Now, when I hear the word hackathon, I imagine a bunch of sweaty guys in black trench coats sitting around in front of a computer with their sunglasses on and a black light and going, I'm in the mainframe. I'm in. But that's not what Arrow does. What is an Arrow hackathon?
Well, I love your description. I also did not know what a hackathon was when Arrow said we were going to do a hackathon. I was like, that sounds fun, but also what is it? What is a hackathon? What are we doing? So essentially it was a competition that the company hosted. So Arrow came to all of us on the home office team and then the department heads as well and basically said, we want to hear your ideas for how you would solve an existing problem that the company is facing or create something totally new that we're not doing. It was really the Arrow was coming to us just to see how we could improve the business. So they rolled it out just I think on a couple different calls and there was prizes offered and stuff. And it was, kind of basically a free for all of form your own team, grab whoever you want to create this solution and may the best team win. So I did Google what a hackathon was afterwards, though we did not fully explain the term. I found out it comes from like the tech industry. So I see why you think people are sitting behind their computers doing it, but ours is not necessarily tech focused. It was any idea that we thought would be beneficial to the company.
Kind of like a great big brainstorm session. No bad ideas. Everybody throw out your ideas, put them up on the board, see what sticks. Is that kind of about right?
Yeah, that's how I took it. At least when I first heard about it was let's just see what we can get from this. So it was really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And but Arrow turned it into more than just a brainstorming session. Arrow turned it into kind of like a competition of sorts. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it was a competition. So once the idea was introduced, then essentially it was, form teams and come up with your ideas. So each, really whoever wanted to, whether if they were a department head, if they were on the home office team, with the core team, formed their teams. They picked whoever they wanted to be on the team and then picked their ideas. We had to submit team names and then submit our ideas to the individuals organizing the hackathon. I think the first hackathon we had one person who was the point person for the hackathon. And so they were kind of collecting all of the ideas. And then the teams were working together to develop those ideas and then eventually present them to the C-suite. And then once the ideas were all presented to the C-suite, they picked finalists. And then the finalists were rolled out at one of our growth summits. And we did presentations, the finalists did presentations. And then there was a panel of voters and then all of the individuals that attended the retreat, which was the home office and the executive directors for our companies also voted. And then a winner was announced from that hackathon. Matt, I don't know anything you want to add about the competition.
Yeah, and I think timing-wise, we usually had about a month. So it's like a month from the time it was announced to when we did the first pitches, then at least like 2 to 3 weeks where we had the chance to get feedback from kind of that initial review and revise. So like some teams have actually changed their pitches pretty substantially between that period, or like teams have combined and shuffled. So there's kind of that opportunity to refine a little bit before the final round.
Yeah. It's always been a very short turnaround. I feel like it's like, we're going to do the hackathon and you've got like a month feels like a long time, maybe to some people, but to me it's not. So it always felt very much like you got to be quick about it.
Yeah, especially when you are learning a new skill within that month and also trying to get something over the finish line.
Right.
So that you guys were on a team together, right? Was that right for the first year?
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
what was your
So
team
Matt and
name?
I have been on teams 2 times together now. So I'll say, like, when the hackathon was first introduced and rolled out, like, you know, that Arrow was saying, we're going to do a hackathon. Honestly, my first thought was like, ooh, this sounds fun. I hope someone chooses me to be on their team. And then almost immediately I was like, I'm not going to wait. I know what I want to do. Let's form a team. So I'm going to form a team. So that's kind of where, for me, I started with the hackathon. Was I felt like I had a very clear idea of what needed to be improved and what I wanted to do, but needed obviously a team of people who could actually do it and help it come to life. So I actually had reached out to someone I worked closely with, Stephanie Hood, to start the idea. We wanted to make the scheduling platform now known as the Archer. So reached out to her first, just because her and I had been talking about scheduling. Her and I worked very closely with it, and then was very much like, Stephanie, we've got to get Matt on our team, because Matt's going to be the one who's going to actually know how to do all this stuff. And I think, honestly, ignorantly at the time, I just assumed Matt knew how to do everything because he knows all of the numbers in computers really well. So I was like, he can help us make this project. So we reached out to Matt, and then also wanted someone on the team who worked a lot in scheduling but had a different perspective than maybe HR, and then even what Matt had, because Matt hasn't, I don't want to speak for you, Matt has an HR background too. So it's like, there's a lot of HR knowledge. We need someone that's not in the HR world that could bring a different perspective to the group. And that was Alyssa. So we reached out to Alyssa Bruns, our managing director of culinary, and wanted her to be on the team. So my thought when we were building the team was, you know, obviously work with people that we think we could get the project done, but also maybe minds that are a little bit different, because we're going to get a better product if we all are thinking about it in different ways and have different viewpoints that we're bringing in. So that's how we initially formed our first hackathon team, and then this year we teamed up again.
Well, I think what's interesting about hackathons is it kind of encourages people to pick off a project that they might not normally do. It's like, I used to work a lot with schedule templates that kind of predated Archer and wanted something different, and I thought about, like, ooh, we could turn this into an app. I should figure out how to do that. But you know, with your day-to-day job, it's hard to find the time. Having kind of that special opportunity to really devote some attention to it, and kind of the incentive of the competition makes a big difference for actually making some of those bigger ideas a reality.
Yeah, because I know there's times, like, and I'll hear even lots of people that we work with say, like, oh, well, we could do this differently, but you don't always think to just go ahead and start doing that, or to throw that out. So it provides that platform, like you said, of, oh, this is the space where I can say, like, oh, I want to work on something that's totally different from what I do.
Yeah,
and
being
for me, at least, it was an opportunity to develop a new skill, because I was already very familiar with programming. Like, we do a lot with Python, but have never developed an actual web application before. So gave myself 2 weeks to figure it out, and then we built from there.
The rest is history.
Just 2 weeks to learn a whole new programming language and implement it for a big company like Arrow. Well done. So how does one plan for a hackathon as a company or as a team leader? How does one sort of lay the groundwork for that and then execute it?
Do we maybe want to start with from the team perspective, Amber?
Yeah, I can cover kind of from the team perspective. So I think when you're wanting to plan a team, I think what I was saying before is starting with who's on your team is really, I think, quite important. Again, not just I think a lot of people tend to want to work with people they work closest with, because that's what you're more comfortable with. But I think the more diverse your team is, the better. This last hackathon we did, we mixed in executive directors and home office employees, which I thought was really beneficial, because you're getting the perspective of working in the community every day, and then you have the perspective of employees who are working more from, like a bird's eye view level on the home office. So I think structuring your team with different minds is important, and then also kind of designating who's going to do what. So I think our hackathons in my opinion, Matt, the one that you and I have done, like we've always had someone who's kind of like the point person, keeping everybody organized, like scheduling meetings, like, you know, there's the person that's going to actually maybe go in and be doing the physical work, especially how ours kind of worked out with Matt doing a lot of the programming and stuff. But there was the brainstorming sessions where we're all coming together and talking about what it would look like. There's someone who's in control of like what the presentation is going to be. I think presenting it is an important part of it too. So not just the physical idea, but how are you presenting that to everybody else, and not just showing this is the idea that I have, but this is why this idea is impactful, and this is how it's going to impact you. This is the timeline. This is how much it's going to cost. Like, this is the history. There's a lot that goes into not just saying, I want to create a scheduling app, or I want to create a new workflow. This is why I want to do it. This is how I'm going to get there. This is why it matters to you. I think our presentation, especially for the first hackathon, really spoke to that of, this is why it matters. This is how it's going to help you. And I think that got a lot of people's attention. So I think that's important. And then I think not being afraid to like go outside of your norm is important too. So like not just thinking inside of, I work in HR, so I'm going to try to solve an HR problem. Like when Matt and I were tossing ideas around this year, we tossed out move-in coordination. We talked in like our PATH program. We talked about some different sales processes. So it's an opportunity, like we said before, just to kind of flex your muscles in a different way. And it's a lot more exciting. I think you'll have a lot more fun if you're doing something that's different from your day-to-day. So Matt, anything you want to add for the team?
Yeah, I think it's definitely the potential to work on something that's like completely outside your normal workflow. But like when thinking about what problem to tackle, it's important to kind of think about what's going to have the biggest impact globally. So making sure somebody's not trying to solve something that's super specific or super small. And then also working through kind of like, can you actually solve the problem? Like I think the best pitches are the ones that, you know, land on a solution that can actually be delivered.
And speaking of solutions delivered, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the results of some of these hackathons. What has come out of these hackathons? Why don't you hype them up? Hype up some of your accomplishments and some others as well.
So yeah, Archer was the winner the first year. So Archer is our internal, we started as our scheduling application. And one of the things we really noticed about Archer is like, because we went through the work to develop kind of our own web platform, like once you have that, a lot of the difficulty is in like, how do you authenticate and set up users? How do you host this? How do you sync all the data into it? Like once you have those patterns figured out, it's very easy to add on features. So in the year between the hackathons, we've been adding a lot of things around business planning, how we use it to better understand what's going on with our staffing, how we manage agency spend, automating some payroll processes, like lots of other things have been able to be added onto what started as like a scheduling focus. We've got lots of plans for the future. So like the second year, both of the finalists were add-ons to Archer. So the winning one was like a workflow solution or an automated universal workflows for different processes. And then our pitch this year was a lot of things around bringing all of our different performance and talent management and development things kind of into one place and making them talk the same language. So training guides, some mentorship program, and some like skilled mastery pieces.
Yeah, it was focused a lot on like leadership development for this year for Matt and I, but the workflow ideas that won this year was really cool to see, because kind of going back to the team piece, like it was an executive director, one of our newer executive directors, I believe, had the idea for that team or really led on the development of that, which was really cool to see that there was someone who was new to the company, had this winning hackathon idea that is going to make a process within our company, our move-in coordination, so much smoother and accessible for our department heads. So I was super excited to, well, I wasn't excited to not win 2 years in a row. I'll say that. Like it was, you know, who doesn't want to win? But it was cool to see a new executive director with the company win the competition. It was cool.
Yeah, no barriers to entry, no seniority giving you a leg up. If you've got a good idea, you've got a good idea, right? And that's all that really matters. That's great. And it's become something of a tradition, right? We've done it for a few years now, and it's something that people look forward to, I would say.
I would hope so. I look forward to it. When we said we were doing it again this year, well, okay, I did look forward to it. I did have a moment. I was like, Matt, are we doing this again? Are we really gonna put ourselves through the hackathon? But we're like, yes, we're gonna do it. It's gonna be fun. I like it. I like seeing all of the different ideas. I do wish this year, like, we got to see the other team, but I had to kind of like ask around, like, what's your guys' idea? What's your guys' idea? Not necessarily to, like, you know, compared to mine, but I just wanted to see what everybody was working on. I think it's really cool to see the different thoughts that everybody has. It's fun. Like, it's fun to have a competition, just something different to think about. So I hope that people look forward to it, and I hope that they see it as an opportunity to, you know, kind of show off a little bit what you know or what you can do, and just to have a little bit of fun and do something different. So I hope that we keep doing them every year. I think we will be. Seems like we'll hopefully that's the plan. So Matt and I will hopefully get to be involved in some way if we don't get to compete every year, but it'll be fun.
For sure. So then let's talk a little bit about, we talked a little bit about the most recent hackathon. So let's talk about the why. And we've touched on this a little bit also throughout this entire conversation, why we do this. But let's get into like a little bit of the nitty-gritty of the why and why it's important. Can you speak a little bit about that?
So, I mean, I know one of the things that Stephanie has always mentioned as one of the biggest benefits is just understanding where all the ideas are coming in from. Not even the winning ideas necessarily that are going to come with like the solutions, but what are people pitching as the pain points? So it becomes a really useful feedback session for where people think the struggles are.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely shows us where people's minds are. And then also it shows us who's thinking outside the box within the company. You know, there might be people that we aren't even on our radar. Honestly, just we're a bigger company. There's lots of department heads, lots of employees. So it gives us the opportunity for someone to have, you know, kind of like a breakthrough idea or see who's going to think differently. And it also, I think it really encourages leaders within the company to be solution focused. So instead of, you know, we're really good at identifying problems. It's fairly easy to identify a problem. It's a lot harder to think through what the solution would be that would work globally. So it gives us the opportunity to do that too, to get everyone focused on what the solution could be to a problem. And the other thing too, I feel like I've been repetitive about this, but I'm going to say it anyway. It provides, I think, cross-departmental collaboration. So, you know, it really, if you're doing the hackathon, what I think is the right way in working with different team members, then you're collaborating on different projects, and it breaks down the silos of each service area so that we're coming together for a common goal and to create something that is unique to us. So
I think it's also a really interesting way of working because you are working with a very small group, and you do kind of get to dream big a little bit because you're ultimately in competition. So you get to pitch your idea, and like a lot of times when we tackle projects, you sometimes have to work very incrementally or very small because you're trying to build a general consensus to take each step. Whereas with a hackathon, you kind of get to lay it all out in one go, and people can say yay or nay. So it really can help kind of speed up some bigger projects.
Yeah. And I know that we've seen too, like with the hackathon, we've had teams come together. So they might have similar ideas, and then we'll say, oh, you should make your idea one idea. And then that's what happened with the winning hackathon team this year. So they had two similar ideas. They came together, and then they ended up winning because there was that collaboration that was brought together. So again, like it's gives the pulse of what people are thinking, but then kind of bringing those ideas together to create like a super idea. And then you end up having a really great project.
Yeah. And I think going back to like, it also introduces the ability for people to stretch themselves. So you could learn something new that you have wanted to learn for a while, or find a way to apply something that's kind of outside of what you normally do, which then pays dividends down the road because you're building kind of this opportunity for people to have like creative outlets, but also they're upping their skills as part of it.
Yeah. And really it's like employee retention too, right? Because it's giving employees a chance to be heard. And who doesn't want to like work for a company that really will listen to what your ideas are and then even implement it quickly. I mean, Archer, we implemented right after the competition, basically. And I know we're working on the second hackathon idea now. So I think that's an employee retention move, because who doesn't want to like work for a company that's going to listen to their ideas and let them solve a problem and really like take the reins and make big moves. So
yeah, it's empowering is what it is. Like, you know, if you've got a problem, then you know that Arrow is going to listen, and not only listen, but will address the issue, especially if you come up with it yourself. You come up with it yourself. I have this solution to this problem. Arrow's going to listen, and that's a great thing. And it can come from any department, anywhere. If someone in culinary sees an issue going on with human resources, they can bring it up and talk about it, and it's not taboo or get out of here. This is not your department, you know. Has there been and this we didn't has there been an idea at a hackathon that maybe didn't win, but then was maybe brought back later and was implemented or refined and returned to the vote, I guess? Has anything from previous hackathons come back up later on in a new form or a new solution? Do you know off the top of your head?
I'd say elements.
Some elements, yeah. I would think there was a group that maybe wanted to do like an intranet or something like that, and we're kind of going that way with Archer a little bit. But I feel like I don't know, I could be speaking out of turn, but like I think our idea, our runner-up hackathon for the leadership development, will probably be something that we take some elements from after we implement this workflow idea. So I think yes and no. I think there's, you know, just timing of everything, but definitely some ideas that we can, you know, incorporate certain elements from down the road. So
sure, yeah, because I mean, like, even if it doesn't win, like, these are still things that people obviously feel some sort of passion about and feel like there's room for improvement, so they bring it up, and that's the only
well, and we can prioritize too. So like, okay, well, these are the winning, you know, these are the ideas that everybody voted on to win. We're going to tackle these issues first, but these were ideas that were important enough to team members to create a hackathon for and a solution for. Maybe the solution wasn't the 100% right way to do it, but we know that this is something we need to address as a company. So then we can go back to that team and say, you know, okay, hey, we want to address this issue. You know, let's maybe work a little bit harder, not harder. Let's work a little bit differently on the solution and how we're going to get there. But like, it does show us kind of where we can strategize which problems to solve down the road as we pick through the ideas.
Yeah, I think it's an important opportunity to just shape the thinking too. I would say that one of the finalists from the first time, the culture one, like there's probably elements of that pitch that have been picked up and have kind of shaped some of the direction for resident services.
Yeah.
Outstanding. So we're getting into the last few minutes here of this little tete-a-tete we're having. So can we go ahead and talk about, do you have any advice for teams, Arrow teams or organizations outside of Arrow, who want to do their own hackathons? What lessons have you learned from the hackathons what wisdom would you like to impart upon them?
I think if a company is wanting to do a hackathon, creating the buzz about it is like the first step and is important. Arrow did a good job of that. Like I said, we rolled it out. They rolled out on the calls. They made it a competition. There was prizes that they gave out. So creating the buzz, but also having the structure. I feel like one hackathon year was a little bit more structured than other, like for the team. So saying, you know, okay, this is how you submit your team, you know, maybe giving the guidelines of this is what we're looking for. We did like what we call a 5 W's for the hackathon. So kind of really outlining what they're needing for the project and why and when and all of that fun stuff. So giving the outline of what the project is, timeline of, you know, when you need to have stuff submitted, and then knowing who all is going to be involved ahead of time, I think. So knowing who's going to be your judges, how are you going to do voting, who's going to give advice throughout this process, if you're going to have people that maybe aren't voting, but that are providing, you know, kind of some outside feedback to the teams on how they could fix or improve their project. I also think letting the teams know, you know, if you have to have a team leader, designate a team leader, like kind of just outlining the whole thing, giving a guideline so that the teams that are participating feel confident in what they're doing and win is hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, I think starting with the idea that the goal is like, how do you get the most best ideas from the broadest group of people? So yeah, I would encourage like a pretty open field in terms of who can participate. And then also the more that people can kind of know like what is the company already working on or thinking about, and getting that information as like broadly available as early as possible. Like I think one of the things we've seen, unfortunately, from some of the knockout rounds is people pitching things that they don't realize are kind of like already 90% done. Whereas if they had the opportunity to understand that, they may have picked something different. So, and you know, it's always a learning process as you go through it. But I would kind of go back to that idea of the goal is to get as many like really good finalists to the final round where you're excited about it, and that starts from having the broadest opportunity and people with the best understanding of what's going on.
All really great advice. Is there any last thing that we want to talk about before we say goodbye today? Any shout outs for people who are integral to the hackathon who couldn't join us today or anything like that?
Well, we can shout out Stephanie and Alyssa, our original Archer team. So shout out Stephanie and Alyssa. Thank you, Stephanie. We still work with them all the time about the Archer. And then the other hackathon team we can shout out. What were you saying?
So we're gonna miss some people. I feel like who was on
That's
it.
true. The last team had a lot of people.
Meredith Eckel, Jake Overcrom,
Rob Kane,
Terry Millsap. Who am I missing?
I don't remember, but you guys did great.
Dylan was
the executive director. Yes. Yeah.
I'm probably missing somebody.
Well, everybody out there, you know who you are and you're appreciated, and a big shout out to you for your great work on the hackathons. Amber and Matt, thank you so much for joining me today. This was great learning about the hackathons. They sound super fun and super productive, and I can't wait for the next one to see what comes out of it. Thank you everybody out there for watching and joining us today. It was a wonderful time, and we will see you next time.